Could a tiger's roar echo differently in the wild than it does in captivity? Just think about that for a second. A tiger, the ultimate symbol of freedom and power, now caged. You ever wonder how that feels? And here's the real question: does that echo carry the same strength, the same pride? Or does it reveal something else entirely, something much more heartbreaking? Stick around, because what we're about to uncover might just change the way you look at zoos forever. Imagine a tiger in the wild, running free, prowling through endless forests, completely in control of its world. It's majestic, powerful, and untamed. Everything about it is designed for freedom: its sharp eyes, strong legs, and that roar echoing across miles of open land. Now imagine that same tiger being taken from all of that. Suddenly, those miles of territory become a few hundred square feet of concrete and bars. The grass is replaced by cold floors, and the once open sky is just a memory. From prowling a vast jungle to pacing a tiny enclosure, how do you think that feels? It's like you took a piece of the wild and tried to fit it into a box. And that's where the controversy comes in. Sure, zoos talk about conservation and education, but do they ever ask how the tigers feel? Many critics say it's not about helping these animals at all. It's about putting them on display, making them a spectacle. And those critics might be right. Look at this tiger. Does this look like an animal thriving? Or does it look like an animal just surviving, just waiting? We're going to explore that together. Because if there's one thing that's clear, it's that there's a lot more going on behind those bars than what we see. Alright, let's get into some real talk. Let's compare a tiger's natural home with the zoo. And trust me, the differences are pretty huge. In the wild, a tiger can roam up to 20 miles a day. Yeah, you heard that right, 20 miles. That's like going for a jog across an entire city. Imagine how much stimulation that gives them. They're constantly hunting, exploring, marking territory. It's a busy life, but it's what they're meant for. Now, in a typical zoo, well, let's just say that 20 miles becomes a whole lot less. We're talking a few hundred feet at best. That's like having a whole playground and suddenly being stuck in a tiny backyard. I mean, where's the excitement in that? And it's not just about space, it's about stimulation. In the wild, every day is an adventure: tracking prey, climbing, swimming. In the zoo, not so much. What do they have? Maybe a log to scratch, a couple of toys, and an enclosure full of people staring at them. But think about it. If you had nothing to do but walk in circles all day, wouldn't you be bored too? And that's what we see: tigers pacing back and forth, back and forth. That's called stereotypic behavior. It's a sign that something's just not right. Oh, and here's another big one: social interaction. Tigers are usually solitary, but they still interact with other animals, hear different sounds, and engage with their environment. In a zoo, it's mostly isolation, or maybe sharing a small space with another tiger, which often isn't natural for them. So what does all of this add up to? Space, stimulation, social interaction. It's like taking all the things that make a tiger, and shrinking them down until they're almost unrecognizable. Is it any wonder they don't look quite right behind those bows? So, what happens when you take an animal meant for freedom and put it in a cage? The behavior changes, and it's pretty heartbreaking to see. Let's start with this pacing you're seeing right here. Back and forth, back and forth. It's called stereotypic behavior. And no, it's not because tigers just like to walk a lot. This pacing is actually a sign of stress. It's like when people tap their feet when they're anxious, but way more intense. It's their way of dealing with frustration, of having all that energy and nowhere to let it out. And then there's the opposite: complete lethargy. Some tigers just give up. You'll see them lying around all day, barely moving. It's almost like they're defeated. They're built to hunt, to move, to explore. And when they can't do any of that, they shut down. It's not laziness, it's a lack of purpose. There have been real studies showing just how harmful captivity can be for large predators like tigers. For example, researchers Clubb and Mason published a study in Nature highlighting that animals like tigers, which are used to roaming over vast territories, show high levels of stress in captivity. They develop behaviors like pacing, what we call stereotypic behaviors, because they're basically stuck in environments that don't give them enough space or stimulation. Another study by Shepherdson and his colleagues found that without the right kind of mental and physical stimulation, these big cats just lose themselves. Sometimes they pace endlessly, sometimes they don't move at all. It's like all that energy, all that natural instinct to hunt and explore, just fades away. And that's the kind of distress we're talking about here. Stress that can't be seen in the wild. Here's the ethical question. Are we really giving them what they need, or are we just doing the bare minimum to keep them alive and in sight for visitors? And let's be honest, can we really call this conservation? The truth is, behind those bars, tigers are losing the essence of who they are. They're not just losing space, they're losing themselves, and that, more than anything, makes you question if this is the best we can do for them. Alright, let's get real here. We've talked about the environment, the stress, the behavior. So now, we've got to ask ourselves the big question: why are these tigers here in the first place? Are zoos really about conservation, or is this just entertainment wrapped up in a nice package? Zoos often say they're all about saving species, but let's be honest, how many of these tigers will ever return to the wild? How many of them are part of a true conservation effort? Or is it more about giving us, the visitors, a chance to see a wild animal up close, while the tiger pays the price? Here's a question for you. Do you think keeping tigers behind bars helps them, or helps us? Are we really protecting them, or are we just putting our curiosity and entertainment first? It's a tough question, but it's one we all need to think about. Alright, I want to hear from you. Let's make this a conversation, not just me talking at you. Take a moment and answer this. Do you think tigers belong in zoos? Yes or no? And if you've got more to say, drop it in the comments below. I mean, this is a topic that deserves more than a simple answer. What do you think about the whole idea of keeping tigers like this? Is it truly helping them, or is it just for us? I'd love to hear your thoughts, your opinions, whether you agree or disagree. But before we wrap this up, I've got something important to share. There's one fact that might just change everything you think you know about tigers in captivity. It's something that honestly shocked me when I first learned about it. Did you know that studies have shown most tigers born in captivity will never be part of any true conservation effort? The shocking reality is that captive-bred tigers are almost never released into the wild. Why? Because they haven't learned the skills they need to survive out there. They don't know how to hunt, they don't have territory, and they aren't familiar with the natural dangers that exist outside of those zoo walls. And what's worse, there are actually more tigers in captivity, mostly in private facilities and zoos, than are left in the wild. Think about that. More tigers behind bars than free, roaming the forests where they belong. So when we hear the word conservation being used to justify tigers in zoos, we really have to ask, are we preserving the wild tiger? Or are we just creating a collection of tigers that are trapped forever, without hope of experiencing the life they were born for? That's the reality behind those bars, a reality that should make all of us question if we're truly doing right by these amazing creatures. And here's the kicker: if we keep doing this, we're not just taking away their freedom, we're taking away what it means to be a tiger. If that doesn't make us rethink things, I don't know what will, but there's something we can do: raise awareness. If you believe tigers deserve more than concrete floors and metal bars, then share this video. Let's get more people talking about this. Sometimes all it takes is a little awareness to start change. And if you want to keep exploring these kinds of topics, if you want to learn more about animals, their lives, and how we can do better, hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. Together we can spread the word and make a difference, one story at a time. Thanks for watching, and let's hope for a better future for these amazing creatures.